So I'm John Spertus, and we're wrapping up to the end of the 2025 AHA Scientific Sessions. It's been a fantastic meeting,
for sure.
And I'm here with Jason Wasfy. And Jason, I'd love to get your thoughts about some of the late-breaking clinical trials and even just the meeting overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll say that, gratitude to the AHA. I think even on the last day, we're getting fantastic late breakers. So the Celebrate trial, there's some festive names of the trials on the last day.
As you would predict for New Orleans.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Maybe that's the issue, is testing a subcutaneous 2B3A inhibitor as an adjunctive treatment for STEMI. And it's a very interesting result. I mean, it seems to have some benefit in terms of ischemic endpoints, especially on size of infarction, but at the cost of at least mild to moderate bleeding. So it's.
And did they compare it with aspirin alone, or was
the comparison was sort of standard treatment for STEMI for people planned for PCI. So these people ultimately got a dual antiplatelet therapy. So it seems like an interesting option. I'm not sure if these results kind of put this right into clinical practice, right? Because there's a trade-off between bleeding and thrombosis. It's a common problem in cardiology, and often shared decision-making is appropriate, but in the setting of STEMI, it's probably difficult to do that kind of shared decision-making.
And undoubtedly, there'll be some implementation challenges to consistently do it outside of a clinical trial,
right?
And figure out its real effectiveness is going to be a need for a lot more research, for sure.
Right, to implement to clinical practice. It's a nice point. I think to that point, though, one thing that's interesting is that because it's a subcutaneous injection, it could actually be delivered in the pre-hospital setting in some cases, which raises all sorts of other implementation challenges. So.
Any other trials catch your interest today?
Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, there's the CAVIAR trial, which is a trial of PCSK9 alirocumab as adjunctive therapy for people at risk of transplant coronary vasculopathy. These people came in on statin therapy with pretty good LDLs. So it's really a test of whether transplant vasculopathy, this is a very special population. Obviously, it's a very limited population.
But a very intractable thing to treat. So
for sure, and to force the LDL really low, which as we know from other things this weekend, that has been a compelling strategy in lipid therapy. But does this work in this very highly selected population of people who are post-transplant? And it was a negative trial, which is interesting. Hard to know how to put this all together, but one potential idea is that whatever biology is going on in transplant vasculopathy and coronary vasculopathy is post-transplant is potentially different than traditional. Maybe inflammation, or I'm speculating a bit, obviously, but that's at least one of the potential outcomes. But it's a little different than the theme of the last few days, right? Which is that lower LDL is always the right strategy.
And just beyond that, I mean, how has it been interacting with colleagues? We had the pleasure of sort of Brahmaji leaving the Circ Outcomes editorship, or getting on the threshold of doing that, celebrating. But by and large, I mean, there was a lot of celebration, lots of people getting together, new collaborations being formed. What was your impression?
Yeah, I appreciate this. I mean, and I think I go back a fair bit, and I think you might have been my first paper, if I'm remembering correctly. And that Circ Outcomes community has meant a lot in my career development. And one thing I just love I love being an academic physician scientist cardiologist is to be part of a community of people who are really, really passionate about improving clinical outcomes for patients with heart disease. It means a lot to me, and to be able to connect in this setting, to share ideas, to hear what other people are up to connect with friends from training, the collegiality that comes along with that really means a lot to me, and I appreciate it.
And changing healthcare is often a long and lonely business, right? And to have fellow travelers to commiserate with, to see new guidelines released, to see a lot of the science that Jack is publishing, come to fruition. Now to think about, what do we do about this? And to have people to talk about, to brainstorm, to encourage, to be glad that you're so old you don't have to take on the challenge, and the young guys do. But it's been a really great meeting, and I really appreciate you sharing your perspective of the final late-breaking clinical trials. And for those who weren't able to make it to New Orleans, I do hope you'll make it to New Orleans in March, where the ACC will be here, and we'll have more great science, more great collaborations, more great partying in the French Quarters.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.